The moment Ethan stepped into the sunlit foyer of the Sterling mansion in Beverly Hills, he caught Jordan Sterling reaching for a crystal vase that had begun to tip over with reflexes no blind man should possess. But when the other twin, Josiah, who truly couldn't see a thing after the crash 5 years ago, introduced Ethan as the new live-in caregiver hired to assist them both, the young nurse simply smiled and kept his observation to himself, chalking it up to a trick of the light or his own nerves on the first day. The Sterling family had built an empire in real estate and tech that spanned the West Coast, and the twins, now 28, had been the golden heirs until that rainy night on the Pacific Coast Highway changed everything. Doctors had declared both men permanently blind, a devastating blow that left their parents, Victor and Elena Sterling, scrambling to restructure the company around trusted executives while shielding their sons from the public eye. Josiah adapted with quiet dignity, learning Braille and voice software. His once athletic frame now guided by a white cane, he tapped methodically across marble floors. Jordan, however, had withdrawn into silence, his handsome face often turned toward windows he supposedly could no longer appreciate, relying on staff for every movement. Ethan, fresh from a nursing program in San Francisco and openly gay though he rarely discussed it, had taken the job because the salary would pay off his student loans and because helping people through hardship had always been his calling. That first week passed in a blur of routines. Ethan learned the layout of the sprawling estate with its infinity pool overlooking the city, the private gym where Josiah still worked out with a trainer's guidance, and the library where Jordan spent hours listening to audiobooks. He assisted with meals, medications, and physical therapy, always respectful, always professional. Yet small things nagged at him. Jordan never bumped into door frames the way Josiah did. His head turned toward sounds with uncanny precision, and once, when a maid dropped a tray in the hallway, Jordan's hand shot out instinctively to steady a nearby lamp before Ethan could even react. "Just lucky reflexes?" Jordan had muttered with a faint smile when Ethan commented lightly, but the explanation felt hollow. Josiah, meanwhile, became Ethan's anchor in the household. The truly blind twin was warm and witty, sharing stories of their childhood adventures before the accident, and he never complained about his limitations. Jordan took it harder, Josiah confided one afternoon as Ethan helped him organize his desk. He was the outgoing one, always the life of the party. Now he barely speaks to anyone outside the family. Mom and Dad keep pushing him to meet suitable women, to secure the bloodline, but he shuts down every time. Ethan nodded, filing away the detail. The Sterling's expectations hung heavy in the air, an invisible pressure that seemed to weigh more on Jordan than on his brother. By the end of the month, Ethan had settled into a comfortable rhythm, but the unease lingered. He found himself watching Jordan more closely during evening walks in the garden, where the supposed blind man navigated the winding paths without hesitation, describing the scent of jasmine as if he could see the blooms. One night, after helping Josiah to bed, Ethan passed Jordan's suite and paused at the cracked door. Inside, the room was dimly lit by a single lamp, and Jordan sat at his desk, flipping through the pages of a physical book with clear, focused eyes. Ethan's heart stuttered. He stepped back silently, mind racing. This wasn't a mistake or a miracle recovery. Jordan could see perfectly, and he had been pretending for years. The realization settled over Ethan like a storm cloud, bringing equal parts confusion and concern. Why would a man fake such a profound disability? What secret was worth the isolation, the pity, the endless charade in front of his own family? Ethan lay awake that night in his staff quarters, staring at the ceiling, torn between his duty to report the truth and an unexpected pull of empathy for the man who carried such a heavy burden alone. Little did he know that confronting the lie would unravel not just Jordan's facade, but the walls around both their hearts, forcing choices that would test loyalty, love, and the very meaning of family in ways neither could have imagined. Ethan spent the next few days wrestling with what he had witnessed, replaying the scene in his mind during every task. He continued his work with professional calm, guiding Josiah through physical exercises in the garden and preparing Jordan's favorite meals without a hint of suspicion. But inside, questions multiplied. The Sterlings had poured millions into experimental treatments and private specialists after the accident. Yet Jordan had apparently healed while letting everyone believe otherwise. Was it guilt over surviving with sight when his brother had not? Or something darker, tied to the family's relentless demands for the perfect heir? Josiah noticed Ethan's distraction first. "You seem miles away today," he said one morning as Ethan adjusted the audio settings on his tablet. Josiah's voice held genuine warmth, the kind that came from someone who had learned to read people through tone alone. "Everything okay with the job? My brother can be a handful, I know. He doesn't mean to push people away." Ethan forced a smile, replying that he was simply adjusting to the pace of such a large household. But the conversation lingered, reminding him how close the twins still were despite their different realities. Jordan might fake blindness, but his protectiveness toward Josiah was real, evident in the way he always positioned himself between his brother and any potential stress from their parents. The turning point came during a stormy afternoon when the power flickered and the mansion plunged into partial darkness. Victor and Elena were away at a board meeting, leaving the twins and staff to manage. Josiah, accustomed to navigating without light, remained composed, but a loose shutter in the library banged violently in the wind. Jordan, alone in the room at the time, moved swiftly to secure it, his movements fluid and sighted. Ethan, entering to check on him, froze in the doorway as Jordan turned, their eyes meeting in the dim glow of emergency lights. For the first time, Jordan didn't look away or feign confusion. The air thickened with unspoken knowledge. "You saw?" Jordan said quietly, his voice steady but laced with exhaustion. He closed the book he had been reading openly, the same one from weeks earlier. Ethan stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "I did. A while ago." "Why, Jordan? Your family thinks you're as lost as Josiah. The doctors, the media, everyone." Jordan sank into a leather chair, running a hand through his dark hair, the gesture of a man tired of carrying secrets. He explained in halting words how the accident had left him with minor injuries and full vision, but the diagnosis for both twins had come in the chaos of the hospital. Fear had gripped him then, fear of stepping into his father's shoes, of the arranged socialite marriages Elena pushed, of a life scripted by legacy rather than choice. Faking blindness had bought him freedom, isolation from the spotlight, time to figure out who he really was away from the pressure. Josiah adapted because he had no choice. "I chose this cage because the alternative terrified me more." Ethan listened without judgment, his own experiences as a gay man in a conservative family echoing in Jordan's words. He shared a piece of himself that evening, admitting how he had left home after coming out, how helping others sometimes masked his own loneliness. The conversation stretched late into the night, the storm outside mirroring the one inside. When Ethan finally rose to leave, Jordan caught his wrist gently. "Don't tell them. Not yet. Please." The touch lingered, warm and charged, and Ethan nodded, though his heart already knew this promise would complicate everything. In the days that followed, a tentative bond formed between them. Jordan began opening up during private moments, describing the world he had secretly observed for years, the beauty he missed sharing. Ethan, in turn, found himself drawn to the vulnerability beneath the facade, the quiet strength Jordan had hidden from everyone. Josiah sensed the shift but attributed it to Ethan's good influence, joking that his brother finally had someone to talk to. Yet the secret weighed on Ethan, especially when Elena returned from her trip and began hinting at potential matches for Jordan, oblivious to the truth. Misunderstandings brewed as Jordan pulled away during family dinners, his pretended helplessness now a shield against questions Ethan longed to answer. The emotional pull grew stronger with each shared glance, each late-night discussion in the library, where Jordan read aloud from books he had memorized in secret. Ethan realized he was falling for the man behind the lie, but the risks were enormous. Exposing the deception could destroy the family trust, and admitting his feelings might push Jordan deeper into hiding. Still, as they sat together one evening watching the city lights Jordan had always seen, Ethan felt the first spark of hope that honesty, when it came, might heal more than it hurt. Weeks turned into a delicate dance of trust and temptation. Ethan and Jordan stole moments whenever they could, away from Josiah's perceptive ears and the watchful eyes of the household staff. In the greenhouse behind the mansion, Jordan would point out the vibrant colors of orchids he had only whispered about before, his voice softening as he described how the petals reminded him of the freedom he craved. Ethan listened, his nurse's training giving way to something far more personal, a connection that transcended the professional boundaries he had sworn to maintain. He shared stories of his own struggles, the nights he had questioned his place in a world that still whispered judgments about men who loved men, and Jordan absorbed every word like a man starved for understanding. One afternoon, while Josiah napped after therapy, Jordan led Ethan to the private balcony overlooking the canyon. "I've watched the sunsets from here for years," Jordan confessed, his blue eyes reflecting the golden light he had hidden from everyone. "Pretending not to see them nearly broke me. But you make me want to stop pretending altogether." The admission hung between them, raw and vulnerable, and when Ethan's hand brushed Jordan's, neither pulled away. It was not a grand declaration, just a quiet acknowledgement of the feelings building like a tide, steady and inevitable. Yet doubt gnawed at Ethan. Was this compassion or something deeper? And what would happen when the truth finally surfaced, as it inevitably must? The first crack appeared during a family luncheon. Victor Sterling, ever the patriarch, announced plans to expand the company and hinted that Jordan's condition made Josiah the more reliable figurehead, even in blindness. Jordan's jaw tightened, his sighted gaze flicking briefly to Ethan across the table in silent plea. Later, in the hallway, Jordan exploded in a rare show of frustration. "They don't see me. They never have. The blindness was supposed to give me space, but it's become another chain." Ethan reached out, placing a steadying hand on his shoulder, and for the first time, Jordan leaned into the touch, their foreheads nearly meeting. "You're more than their expectations," Ethan whispered. "More than the lie. When you're ready, I'll stand with you." That night, a misunderstanding threatened to unravel everything. Josiah, sensing tension through subtle changes in Jordan's voice, confronted Ethan privately. "My brother's different around you. Lighter. But if this is pity or something else, tell me now. We've lost enough already." Ethan chose his words carefully, assuring Josiah it was genuine care, but the conversation left him shaken. He realized how intertwined the twins' lives remained, Josiah's genuine blindness a constant reminder of the sacrifice Jordan had made, even if selfishly at first. The guilt Jordan carried surfaced in quiet confessions to Ethan, how he had initially faked the symptoms to avoid the pity, but stayed silent when treatments failed for Josiah, too afraid to face the asymmetry. As their bond deepened, small acts of courage emerged. Jordan began reading to Ethan in the evenings, his voice steady and alive, and Ethan shared playlists of music that had helped him through his own identity struggles. The emotional intimacy felt like a lifeline for both, yet the outside world pressed in. Elena scheduled a specialist visit for Jordan, forcing another performance of helplessness that left him drained and angry. "I can't keep doing this," he told Ethan afterward, pacing the library. "Not with you here. You make me want more." The words carried weight, hinting at the romantic undercurrent neither had named, and Ethan felt his resolve waver. Love was forming, quiet and profound, but the consequences loomed like the hills surrounding their home. Tension escalated when Victor discovered discrepancies in the medical reports during a routine audit of the family finances. "Something doesn't add up," he muttered over dinner, eyes narrowing at Jordan's composed posture. The comment was innocent enough, but it sent Jordan spiraling into withdrawal, canceling walks with Ethan and retreating to his room under the guise of headaches. Ethan respected the space at first, focusing on Josiah's needs, but the distance hurt more than he expected. Josiah noticed too, his blind eyes seeming to see through the silence. "Whatever you're both hiding, it better not break him further," he warned Ethan gently one evening. The words stung because Ethan knew the secret was no longer just Jordan's to keep. A turning point arrived during a charity gala the family hosted at the mansion. Jordan performed his role flawlessly, letting Ethan guide him through the crowd, while Josiah charmed donors with his resilience. But midway through, a server tripped near Jordan, sending a tray of glasses crashing. Without thinking, Jordan caught the falling champagne flute midair, his reflexes betraying him in front of several guests. Whispers rippled through the room, and Elena's sharp gaze locked on her son. Ethan stepped in quickly, steering Jordan away with a calm explanation of instinctive muscle memory. But the damage was done. Later, in the quiet of Jordan's suite, the confrontation finally came. "I can't pretend anymore," Jordan admitted, voice cracking as he removed the dark glasses he no longer needed. "Not with you seeing the real me every day. Ethan, this lie has cost me everything, but losing your trust would cost more." Ethan sat beside him, their hands finding each other naturally. He confessed his own fears, how his feelings had grown beyond professional care into something real and terrifying in its intensity. "I'm gay too," Ethan said softly, the words a bridge across their shared isolation. "And I see you, Jordan. All of you." The admission opened the floodgates. They talked for hours, Jordan revealing how the accident had coincided with his private realization about his sexuality, how faking blindness had been an escape from forced heteronormative expectations and a way to process his identity without the family's scrutiny. Ethan shared stories of prejudice he had faced, strengthening their connection through mutual understanding. Yet family pressure mounted. Josiah, overhearing fragments, confronted Jordan the next morning. "You can see? All this time." The betrayal in his voice cut deep, leading to a heated exchange where Josiah accused his brother of selfishness, of abandoning him to navigate blindness alone. Jordan's defense crumbled into tears, explaining how the deception had started as survival but become a prison. Ethan mediated as best he could, reminding both men of their bond, but the rift widened when Victor and Elena demanded answers. Misunderstandings piled up, with Elena suggesting Ethan's influence was inappropriate and hinting at replacing him. Jordan defended him fiercely, revealing more than intended about their closeness, planting seeds of suspicion that would soon bloom into crisis. Through it all, Ethan's support never wavered. He helped Jordan draft letters he never sent, listened to his fears of losing the family fortune if the truth emerged, and encouraged small steps toward honesty. Their quiet moments together, hands clasped in the garden or voices low in the library, became anchors amid the storm. The emotional growth was palpable. Jordan began questioning his isolation, wondering if love with Ethan could be worth the risk of coming out fully, not just about sight but about who he truly loved. The family confrontation exploded 2 weeks later when Victor hired a private investigator to verify the medical records. Evidence mounted quickly, and the Sterlings summoned everyone to the grand dining room. Jordan stood tall without his glasses, the truth laid bare under the chandelier's harsh light. "I could see the whole time," he said, voice steady for the first time in years. "The accident didn't take my sight, but it forced me to face what I couldn't admit before. I'm gay, and hiding behind blindness felt like the only way to breathe." Gasps echoed. Elena's face paled, Victor's fists clenched, and Josiah sat in stunned silence, his cane gripped tightly. Ethan remained at Jordan's side, a silent pillar, but the backlash was immediate. Victor accused him of manipulating their son, threatening legal action and dismissal. "This nanny has poisoned our family," he snarled, the words dripping with prejudice that cut deeper than any diagnosis. Josiah, processing the layers of deception, initially sided with their parents, his hurt manifesting as anger toward both his brother and Ethan. "You let me believe we were in this together," he told Jordan, voice trembling. Misunderstandings fueled the fire. Elena spread rumors among staff that Ethan had seduced Jordan for money, while Victor moved to freeze assets tied to the twins. Jordan faced the ultimate choice: recant and return to the lie, preserving the empire, or stand with Ethan and risk everything. The days that followed were a whirlwind of sacrifice. Jordan offered to step away from the company entirely, signing documents that relinquished his claim to the inheritance if it meant protecting Ethan from lawsuits. Ethan, in turn, prepared to resign, his heart breaking at the thought of leaving Jordan to face the fallout alone. Late-night conversations turned into confessions of love, not dramatic but profound, each man acknowledging how the other had awakened parts of themselves long suppressed. "You gave me the courage to see clearly," Jordan told Ethan one rainy evening, their foreheads touching. Yet the pressure tested them. Jordan's internal crisis peaked when Josiah refused to speak to him, forcing Jordan to confront the pain his choices had caused his twin. Betrayal came from an unexpected source when a tabloid leaked partial details, twisting the story into scandal. The family circled wagons, but cracks appeared as Josiah, reflecting in his darkness, began to understand his brother's isolation. A tentative reconciliation started with Josiah asking Ethan for help navigating his own emotions about the deception. The turning point arrived when Jordan chose to come out publicly in a quiet statement, not for the media but for himself, declaring his love for Ethan openly to his parents. The decision carried real consequences, including temporary estrangement, but it also sparked the first hints of acceptance as Victor witnessed his son's newfound strength. Through the chaos, Ethan's steady presence and Jordan's growing resolve highlighted the story's core. Love between men was not a weakness but a catalyst for truth. The emotional toll was heavy, with sleepless nights and tearful apologies. But each step forward built resilience neither had known before. Reconciliation unfolded gradually, like dawn breaking over the hills Jordan had secretly admired for so long. Josiah, after weeks of processing, reached out first, his blind fingers tracing Jordan's face during a private moment. "I was angry because I felt left behind, but I see now how much you were hurting too," he admitted. The twins' bond mended through honest talks facilitated by Ethan, who shared his own journey of acceptance to bridge the gap. Victor and Elena, faced with the choice of losing their sons or evolving, began attending family counseling, their initial prejudice softening as they witnessed the genuine happiness Jordan found with Ethan. The company adjusted without the old lies, and Jordan stepped into a new role on his own terms, no longer hiding. Ethan and Jordan's relationship blossomed into something steady and joyful. They took walks where Jordan described the views freely, their hands intertwined without fear. Small victories marked their growth. Jordan attending his first Pride event with Ethan, Josiah cheering them on from the sidelines, and the family hosting a quiet dinner where love was no longer a secret. Sacrifices had been made, but the rewards in trust and self-acceptance outweighed them. Jordan's identity crisis resolved into quiet confidence, his love for Ethan a beacon that illuminated not just his sight, but his entire life. As the mansion settled into a new normal, Ethan reflected on how one discovery had reshaped everything. The men who loved men in this story, across family, friendship, and romance, had chosen courage over comfort, proving that truth, though painful, forged stronger connections than any facade ever could. Is hiding your true self ever worth the pain it causes your family? True or false?